Hi again. So, on this channel, I've been very adamant about my love for Live2D Cubism, as it's how I get 70% of my visuals on this channel. And this is all thanks to the software's rigging and animation function. I've been using it for quick animated emotes, PNG and GIF-tubers, and of course, the coveted 2D VTuber model. And I've been getting comments, both on here and on Discord, asking me about what software I'm using and how the rigs work. So that's what I'm here to do. This will be a nice simple video showing how I create my puppet rigs, from the cutting, the rigging, and even doing a little animation test too. Just before we start, I'd like to go over what is a puppet rig in 2D animation. A puppet rig in 2D animation is a model that allows you to manipulate its features without the need of hand-drawn frames. It has joints and deformers for the best possible flexibility. This method helps save time, and you won't have to worry about messy frames or your character going off model. And just a little warning that these are not VTuber models, because I see a lot of people confused about them, but they have very different rigging fundamentals and workflows from my experience at least. Live2D is a software that allows you to import your flat 2D artwork, which can be manipulated to create certain movements. But before we do that, we have to get the artwork for it first. With any Live2D model, I like to start with a simple sketch. One that has little to no cutting at all, since we'll be doing that once we get in the line art phase. I like to make this process go faster by using my own base that I can heavily modify and use as a template. Hence why you see my puppet rigs share the same eye shape, hands, and they all lack shading. However, you can create sketches for your characters that are 100% unique to them. It just may take longer in the rigging phase, as it'll be different depending on what each character has. And of course, we're keeping it 100% symmetrical as if it was a VTuber model, but asymmetrical models can work too. In the line art stage, I like to draw everything as if it's already cut, but there are multiple methods for cutting that a lot of people like to do. This saves me so much time, and you already have the part perfectly separated. You do need to have an eye for how parts look when they are cut, because we don't want any void spaces in our model. I like to do a lot of snipping and cutting in my model, just to make sure everything is separated properly. For pieces such as the body, the shirt, the jacket, and the head, those layers will have their line art and color separate. You can do these for other parts, but it's not ideal, as some parts don't need that amount of separating, and it can also put a lot of stress on your computer if you actually try to rig the model. One thing I tend to be really picky about with my character rigs is the face. This usually takes me so long, because I want it to match the character without it being too restrictive, not too angry and not too overly happy. This is important because with all the features each part will have, the face is going to be pretty flexible once the model's rigged. I also like to take this time to add the mouth cycle and additional emotive expressions that the model can use. I won't go too in-depth into mouths, as it can vary from style to style, but I like to use sprites for my hands and mouths, rather than having an entire rig for the hands and mouth, just to save time. Thankfully, if you are looking into getting a fully rigged mouth, there are a lot of great mouth rigging tutorials out there. Now that we have our full artwork done, we're going to export it as a PSD and get on to the rigging phase, which is the much harder part. I like to start by prepping the model first, by giving everything a mesh and placing everything in the right deformer. For example, the pupil belongs in the pupil XY deformer, the head belongs in the head deformer, and so on. For the mesh, unlike VTuber models, I actually auto-mesh most of the things on my puppet rigs to save time, but for things that need really good meshing, such as the line art for the clothes or the head, I personally mesh that myself. Same with the eyelashes. I want it to be as smooth as I can get, because auto-meshing is not going to save me here. Everyone's workflow varies from person to person. Some people might start on the face first, some people might start on the head, some people might start on the body. For me personally, I like to start rigging the angle Z and the body Z, since it's a good basis to start at, and it's really easy to rig. This same technique is applied to the legs and the arms, and basically anything else that rotates. But now we have to create the angles for the body, head, and the legs, which is what truly makes the model dynamic. You have to figure out what looks good for you, depending on what the client asks for or your art style. For angle X, I like to use the path deformer tool to place points on the liner of the head. See, now you see why we kept it separated. This technique will also be applied to everything else that has their line art separated. Whenever I work on my rigs, another thing I'm very picky about is how the model looks when it's turning. Not just the head, but the entire thing. This isn't exactly like a VTuber model where we try to add physics and make everything super flashy. We're keeping it nice and simple here for animation. Now for the face. I place my mouth sprite keyframes pretty sloppily. There isn't exactly a need for them to be lined up perfectly with the way they're going to be animated. The same logic will be applied to the other eye expressions and the hands. As for the actual eyes themselves, it's pretty simple. We have the blinking, the eyeball movement, the eye smile, and the eyebrows too. And now we have our completed model, which means it's time to animate. As soon as I get a new character rig, the first thing I want to do is start animating. This is also good to see if anything's broken or needs to be tweaked. I'd say the animation process is pretty fun, and I look forward to it much more than I do rigging, honestly. I'll be recreating an older animation I did with the exact same characters, but with new models. My first step is planning out the poses, simply blocking them out by using step interpolation. Of course, as I said before, everyone has their own workflow when it comes to animation, so it's best to see what works out for you. I think something that helped me is looking at animators who do things differently in other programs, whether if it's 2D or 3D, and try to see what you can apply to your own animations. It's always good to get inspiration. And my chair creaked, I hope that didn't pick. But one good tip I do have is baking your hair physics. Yes, baking them. If you have a model with rigged hair and you have everything set up in the physics settings, when you go back to the animation tab, go up to this top menu over here and select track, and click bake animation from physics. Depending on your physics settings for your model, there should already be physics applied. After planning the poses and doing the in-betweens, we have our complete basic animation down. I like to go into form animation mode and make adjustments. The form animation feature allows you to create keyframes by manually adjusting the parts and deformers we just rigged. No extra parameters required. This is really good for just adding those few extra touches on things like the eyes and the mouth. This is also how I achieve more advanced angles by using this feature, by simply adjusting the parts. And then, we're finally done with our animation. I like to export them as an MOV file for the transparent background and easier editing. So I hoped you learned something and gained some inspiration too. Feel free to ask any questions, and I'll hopefully do my best to answer them, as it can be pretty confusing. It was for me too. Maybe in the future, if there is enough demand, I'll put up a model on sale for people to study and play around with. Thanks for watching, friends, and good luck on all your creative hobbies and endeavors.